It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders. The whole reason that we have that song is just so if you're in a bad mood with this injury news for the Steelers, that song just automatically puts you in a good mood, right, Alan?
It seems to be working. I was actually wondering, is this still going to hit the same this week? Because, man, the house of cards has come crashing down for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the last 48 hours. If it wasn't bad enough that they played about as poorly as you could possibly imagine them playing in the season opener against the San Francisco 49ers, we got confirmation today from head coach Mike Tomlin that defensive captain Cam Heyward will have surgery on his groin. It's been reported that he will be out 8 weeks. Tomlin sort of left it that he didn't specifically say a time frame, although he didn't say he's going to be out for the year. So I guess that's the one positive there. Also, that Diontae Johnson will not play in this week's game against the Cleveland Browns. He suffered some kind of hamstring injury, assuming some level of a strain that he's still waiting on an MRI. So the same team that just lost 30-7 to the San Francisco 49ers now gets to play the team that beat the Bengals without, arguably, it's like a top 2 offensive and defensive player. Yikes.
Yeah, we've applauded Omar Khan's ability throughout this offseason to add depth at a lot of spots, and that is going to be put to the test here very early in the season, a lot earlier, and to guys that you would have not wanted to see on the shelf for any period of time, let alone for an extended period of time. Diontae Johnson, multiple weeks sounds like, that didn't look good when it happened. Hamstring, you mentioned it, like in stadium, it looked pretty bad. And the timing of the bye week also makes me wonder, like, is he even going to get one game in before the bye week, or would it be worth it to just hold him out? That would be interesting. And then Cam, wouldn't expect him to be back until after the bye week as well. This is a case, I guess, where something that we were complaining about as fans, that early bye week might actually be to their benefit with both these guys being on the shelf for extended periods of time.
I guess, slightly. Yeah. If you can have a week where you got to not have Diontae Johnson and Cam Heyward, you want that to be a week where you don't have the game. That helps a lot. They got a long way to go before they get there, man. This is a big game this Monday, and they've got to figure out so much. It's sort of like everything that we talked about yesterday in terms of what needs to change coming out of this game, and now you put onto that. Like, I don't know if this offense works without Diontae Johnson. I really don't know if this defense works without Cam Heyward. Like Mike Tomlin said, it's not just a player thing; it's a coach thing. I'm like, yeah, it's a conundrum. Like, I don't even know how they're going to go about approaching all this. I've got some ideas, but I can't really remember a Steelers week where there was like this much work that needed to be done on this football team from last week to this week. It's they got a lot on their plate right now.
Yeah, you look at the offensive side. Let's start there with the Diontae Johnson thing. It was Calvin Austin who saw more action than we would have anticipated in week 1 once Diontae Johnson went down. So you look there. Miles Boykin's in a boot right now, so I don't know that he's going to be any type of solution for you. Gunnar Olszewski probably gets a helmet this week. Beyond that, I don't know that there is a solution, but where will the Steelers look internally for some type of answer?
Yeah, maybe it is externally. I don't think we should rule that out. I know that, Mike Tomlin kind of sort of downplayed that part of it, but man, like there's no Diontae Johnson on this roster. With love to Calvin Austin, different kind of player, not at all the same guy, more of a slot player, and Diontae has been playing almost exclusively on the outside. I would assume, and George Pickens kind of said this yesterday. He didn't directly say it, but he kind of said it, that Calvin will play in the slot and that will move Allen Robinson outside. But we saw Allen Robinson, the outside wide receiver, last year with the Los Angeles Rams, and it was not inspiring. It wasn't atrocious. It wasn't like unplayably bad, but it was certainly not what you really want from your number 2 wide receiver. I wrote today at SteelersNow.com, I think the best answer I can come up with when I look at this team and the way it's built right now is they're going to play with 2 tight ends. I really think that's that's the answer that they have to come up with here. And that they already, Dan Moore really struggled in that game. Chooks is in the concussion protocol. You're going to be going against Myles Garrett here. Let's just bolt a Darnell Washington onto the end of offensive line semi-permanently. I mean, if that means you're running with 4 guys in routes all the time, so be it. I think that makes a ton of sense just from the offensive line struggles, and then it lets Pat Freiermuth. He is you unlocking Pat Freiermuth and just letting him be a receiver, I think, is as close as the Steelers can get to replacing what Diontae Johnson brings. But man, that's still not good enough. Like it's still not going to be the same. And it's really hard to stress how huge of a loss Diontae Johnson is for that offense.
It's like this was one of the games where, due to Myles Garrett's presence and also obviously Zachary Smith's a really good pass rusher in his own right, it's a game where I thought we would see more of Darnell Washington anyway. It wasn't necessarily due to me thinking we wouldn't have Diontae Johnson present, but it was a game where I thought we would see both tight ends a good bit anyways. This isn't necessarily the way I want it to come, but yeah, it was a game, like I said, where I thought we would see quite a bit of Darnell.
And, I saw a lot of people on social media talking about like, well, I guess like George Pickens has to step up. And I sort of understand the thought process there. This kind of makes him the number 1 wide receiver. It will certainly, give him more important part of the offense. But if Diontae Johnson is not playing, no defense in their right mind is going to ever single cover George Pickens. George Pickens is going to be double covered on every passing rep the entire time that Diontae Johnson is out. Period. So,
and those corners just had a really nice day.
He could end up getting less targets because of this, because there's no one else on that offense that's worth your time in terms of game planning from a secondary standpoint. Teams are just going to put 2 guys on George Pickens, 1 short, 1 long, every single rep. And it's going to be impossible to get on the ball. And I know exactly what's going to happen is that, Diontae's not going to play, and then Pickens isn't going to catch the ball because he's going to be covered. And they'll be like, how dumb are they? You're not going to be able to get George Pickens involved. You have to have more than one thing going, or a defense can take that one thing away. And that's where the Steelers' passing offense is headed without Diontae Johnson.
Yeah, and to that point, and we've talked about how well Cleveland did against Cincinnati. Those corners, Denzel Ward, Martin Emerson, Greg Newsome, it's a tall task for Pittsburgh's wide receivers.
Mike Tomlin said the corners won them that game, and I don't think there's any bit of like coach speak talking up your opponent there. You know what I mean? Like that's the way it went down. That was unbelievable what they did to best wide receiver room in the league. Certainly like a top 3 one, right? Ja'Marr Chase, 9 targets, 5 catches, 39 yards. Tyler Boyd, 3 targets, 2 catches, 10 yards. T. Higgins, 8 targets, 0. They gave Higgins the old Blutarski, or I guess we could call it the Bub Means now in Pittsburgh. Nothing. I can't even fathom holding. I understand it was raining. I understand it was a miserable offensive environment. T. Higgins 0 while also shutting down Tyler Boyd and Ja'Marr Chase. Yeah. This is going to be a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Turning to the defensive side and Cam Heyward's absence, I think, again, speaking internally first here, could we see Braden Fehoko elevated from the practice squad to help out? You mentioned, prior to the season when they brought him back on the practice squad, there would be some games, especially against like AFC North opponents, teams that have a Nick Chubb, and the Browns do have a Nick Chubb. Those could be the types of games that Braden Fehoko would get into. But like, could we see, more of Keanu Benton in the 3 tech? Could we see Armand Watts get a helmet? Like, what do we expect here to take place?
Well, I think this is the silver lining, is that Cleveland's offense did not do very well in that game. I mean, even though they won the game, you look at Deshaun Watson's numbers, not very good. Their offensive line is beat up, right? They lose Conklin, I believe, for the season, certainly long term. I don't know if they've...
it was ACL and MCL.
Okay, yeah. I didn't know if they had announced that he's definitely out for the year, but, so looking at a rookie right tackle in DeJuan Jones, And I don't think with respect to Elijah Moore and Donovan Peoples-Jones, not the depth of kind of targets here for Watson that we were talking about when we talked about Ayuk and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle. David Njoku is dangerous, certainly. But here's why I like this matchup so much better. The Browns play a lot of two tight end. Harrison Bryant plays a good bit. They'll also play their second running back a lot. They have Pierre Strong there now. What had been, Hunt, obviously. Jerome Ford's there as well. I'm not sure which one kind of gets more of those reps, but they had played Hunt where they played two running backs at the same time, and Demetric Felton did a little bit of that when he was there too. And I think this is a game where the Steelers, from a defensive line perspective, can just say, well, we got to play base. They have to, stopping Chubb is so important to this game plan, one. And two, the Browns don't really have the personnel to spread you out the way other teams do, that I really think they're going to have to play a lot of base defense, which to me means Braden Fehoko gets activated, and you can play Fehoko and Benton in the middle. I thought Montravius Adams was not very good, but can provide some depth at defensive tackle behind, or defensive end in this case, because Larry's still banged up. He's not 100%. So you're going to need somebody to split time with him. And then you got Leal and Loudermilk. So I really think you're looking at those are your 6 defensive linemen for this game. And they're going to have to play a lot. Like those guys are going to have to play well. They're going to have to, but I think it's going to be 3 defensive linemen on the field a whole lot in this game. I think that makes sense for a Browns matchup in general. I think it really makes sense now with the injury to Cam Heyward, so you're not going to be able to replace him with one guy. Kenu Benton already played a good bit of snaps in that first game. Like, it's not like he was limited, and so he played almost 30 snaps. So, I mean, how much more are you willing to give him? Maybe you get him to 40, 45, but if that's a 60-snap game, you're looking at needing a lot from other guys. And so I didn't think Adams was very good. I think Benton was the best player on the Steelers' defensive line. I think he needs to start. I think it needs to be a trial by fire for him. It's a tough matchup. That's a good, going up against Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller in the middle of that offensive line is not easy. But I think that's what needs to happen here. And then fill in those guys, Larry, Marv, Loudermilk, and Adams around him, and then let Fehoko come in when Benton needs a break. I feel like that is the best way forward with this defensive line. And I think it simplifies the question at linebacker too, because if you're going to play base defense and you're going to spend that much time focusing on the run. I thought the best 2 linebackers were Landon Roberts and Quan Alexander. And I think that lineup really lends itself to those guys getting more playing time, because you can put Alexander on Njoku and you can let Roberts play the run. And there aren't these, it's not a scheme that provides a lot of these clashes, these conflicts that the 49ers did. And so I think it makes it a little simpler from a linebacker perspective, from a safety perspective. We don't need, as much of that in this game. I think you'll see a lot more Minkah Fitzpatrick being that kind of center fielder here, as opposed to moving all around the field. And I think that makes a lot of sense. So I think it's a better matchup for the defense. I think it's a matchup the defense can win, especially like give me TJ Watt against any rookie tackle in the world, but DeJuan Jones is big and 6'8", and you can get around him, man. Like it's like this is I think I feel much better about the Steelers defense's chances of surviving this injury than I do the offense, where Diontae is just irreplaceable.
Yeah. I'm also hopeful that assuming that he does get a helmet, Fehoko getting in there is able to keep the linebackers a little bit cleaner. I don't know. I mean, obviously, like, it's hard to. There's really no one thing that you could really pick out from this performance, because everything was so bad. But man, like the linebacker play, especially from like a communication standpoint, like who was in your mind? So you think Cole Holcomb was the worst linebacker of the 3 in that first game? I mean, I would tend to agree. I just hope that Fehoko's insertion into the lineup in some capacity is able to keep those guys a little bit cleaner.
Yeah, I would hope that. I thought Roberts was good when they ran at him. I thought his lack of athleticism was exposed when they asked him to start moving sideways. And so, but I think you can deal with that if you can keep yourself from being put in those situations where we saw Roberts trying to cover George Kittle down the field. Like that, there was one play where he was lined up over Ayuk. I'm like, no, can't happen. Can't happen. Never. So yeah, I think the defense can be much better. Also, the defense, I mean, Mike Tomlin said this too, like, to be fair to the defense, they were put in pretty terrible position. I mean, back-to-back short fields at the beginning of the game. Really, I think after the defense kind of warmed up to the game, which they clearly did not have the luxury of doing, I thought they were okay. They were much better. And really, outside that long run, I thought they eventually got to stopping Christian McCaffrey, even though it was obvious run situations. When they did it, I think there were some positives you can take away from the end of that game, from the way that Keanu Benton played, TJ obviously looking like himself again. I think there's some stuff to build on, and I did think with a mix and match nature of that defense that there was going to be some trial and error about how they were going to be put together. I think we saw some error, but I think we also it's when you have options, it makes recovering from a disaster a lot more palatable, right? Because you say, okay, well, just don't do it that way, but we have other ways we can do it, right? Where if you're just the Steelers offense right now, I don't know what other way there is to do. That's to me where you can't overcome bad quarterback play. And so I think that's where I'm struggling right now.
All right, well, let's turn our attention to that quarterback play. Mike Tomlin, talking about it, said he was looking for some football justice when it comes to Kenny Pickett. The guy works too hard to fail. Typically, those guys are rewarded. Of course, I'm not quote for quote here saying what he was saying, but you get the point that he was trying to make, that I'm trying to say on here. Alan, where are you at with this? Does football justice exist? Is this Tomlin just sticking up for his guy? Like, do you think he truly believes this, or where are you at with this statement from Mike Tomlin?
I think football justice exists at some level, and that like guys that work hard are generally rewarded for it. Like TJ Watt works really hard.
Yes.
Minka Fitzpatrick works really hard. Those are great athletes that work really hard to become elite players, right? And I think you can tell that there's like a total package there, right? Like, you have to be a great athlete. You have to work really hard. You have to be dedicated. You have to be a great teammate. You have to be a great leader. Like, and it's very obvious, even from the outside, what when guys don't have that, right? Like TJ, all those things, right? Minka, all those things. AB, he's a great athlete. He worked really hard. I've never seen a single soul question Antonio Brown's work ethic. He was the last guy of practice every single day, but he was a head case. He was a bad teammate, right? And so that's why he was not able to sustain his status as an elite player the way other guys have. You have to have it all. It's an essential part of it, but it's not the only part, right? You have to have the physical tools. You have to have the physical performance to back it up. Otherwise, you're let me come up with a good example here, but you can get by being a physically limited player that just exists on effort and hard work and hustle, but usually you're like somebody's special teams captain, right? Like you're not a Pro Bowl quarterback then, right? And so like, who's a quarterback that gets by on hard work? Like Ryan Fitzpatrick. Like that's not what the hopes are for Kenny Pickett. And so I think I'm not in a place where I feel confident in things changing, because I don't understand why they were the way they are. And now maybe Mike Tomlin does. He was asked pretty directly twice, basically, what the heck happened to your quarterback? And he kind of chose not to answer that question twice. If you don't know what's wrong, you can't fix it. And I understand him not maybe wanting to broadcast what's wrong, but if even the people that are pretty close to the team can't figure it out, I don't know. It's a head scratcher.
It is really weird. And it's disappointing to see it come in game 1 too. I get when I see this, and this is me again, like maybe reading into words. The way that I interpret this and think about this is going back to the way that Kenny literally, like, after anything, like, he won't make the same mistake twice. Like his tape watching, not necessarily the physical tools, but what he does off of the football field, off of the football field. And that's why I think, of course, we don't play San Francisco that often, but I've asked somebody this, what they thought. So I'll ask it to you. How do you think Kenny would fare if they turned around and played that same San Francisco team a second time?
I don't know. And that's why I don't know if I think this is going to get better soon, because it was such a multi-layered failure that it's hard to isolate the problems. It's like when you take your car to the mechanic and it's like, oh, it's doing this, it's doing that, and it's doing that. Well, if you go to the mechanic and say, hey, when I press the brake pedal down, it squeaks, it's pretty easy to figure out what's going on. But you say, I press the brake pedal down, it squeaks, and then when I turn left, it goes clunk, 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 and there's smoke coming out the back. It's like, okay, well, I don't know. That's not one thing. It's probably a couple things. And then how do you figure out what is leading into all those problems? The reading of the defenses. San Francisco wasn't doing nothing special on defense. There was a headline. George Pickens said, like, oh, they give us a little more cover 3 than we were expecting. And then I see a headline like, 49ers surprise Steelers. No one's surprised by cover 3 ever, ever, ever. Okay, safety's in the middle of the field, probably going to be cover 3. There it is. Okay, like maybe they played more of it than the Steelers were expecting, but that doesn't matter. They have 1,000 plays for cover 3 in their playbook. Like there are some teams that only, for like 10 years, the Steelers played nothing but cover 3. Like nothing. That was the only zone defense they ever played. It's not, no one was taken aback by anything that happened, except for the quarterback, apparently, who was unable to kind of read what was happening and go through his progressions in sort of like a calm and orderly fashion, find open guys, avoid pressure, feel pressure. And then I think the biggest thing was the lack of accuracy just coming out of nowhere. I mean, look, all that stuff, the reading of the defenses and the dealing with pressure, you can kind of say doesn't happen in training camp. Right? Doesn't happen in the preseason all that much, especially when you're not playing that many starters, right? Like how many times was Kenny Pickett actually pressured this preseason? Maybe once. Okay. So you can kind of say, well, okay, you can't really compare what he was doing before to now because the situation has changed. But throwing the football, I can compare throwing the football. I watched Kenny Pickett throw approximately 11 billion passes this year, and about 10 of the worst ones I saw out of those 11 billion came in that game on Sunday. I don't get it. So, I don't know how to say it's going to be better because I don't know what caused that.
Yeah, that's like I walked away from that game confused more than anything else about what I just saw because it was just so uncharacteristic. Like if it didn't look anything like the bad games that he had in 2022. It was something completely different in my mind. So that's why it's just I'm having a hard time processing what it is that just happened.
I agree. I think that's a good way to say it. One thing that we're sure it isn't, and Mike Tomlin clarified this today.
Oh God. Yep.
Is that it's not a concussion. Which we already knew because he didn't have a concussion. And, like, I don't know. I got to get on my soapbox here because this stuff pisses me off. Okay. First of all, Kenny Pickett had 2 concussions last year. Okay. He has always been an extremely diligent player in terms of taking care of his body. He seemed to take the concussions that he got last year seriously and the recovery from those concussions last year seriously. He does not seem like the kind of guy that was going to go play through a concussion, okay, willingly or try to. Okay, so let's. I feel like it is that needs said. The second thing is that there's observers both in the press box and on the sideline, not just watching the hit and the way he's hit, but the way he's acting and carrying himself throughout the game that will flag him if there's a reason to flag him, and no one did. And then even after the game, at halftime, the Steelers team doctors get a good look at him. They see him again at halftime. They put him up at the podium. That would have never happened in a million years if Kenny Pickett had if there was even a concern that he might have a concussion. There never was any. And it's ridiculous and irresponsible that people say, oh, here's a hit that happened. Do you know how many times a player in an NFL game gets their head hit? Like 1,000. Mm-hmm. We don't have 1,000 concussions in the game. You can't just say stuff because it makes you feel better about Kenny Pickett having a bad game that he might have been concussed, and now we're talking about this like it's a thing that could have actually happened. It's ridiculous. I understand if fans want to do it, but like for professional people in the media to be doing it, it's absolutely unprofessional. It's absurd, and it should never happen. The same stuff happens with Aaron Rodgers last night, where he's still on the turf, and we got people from their freaking house in San Diego saying, oh, he's torn his Achilles. You don't know. Shut the heck up. Like, I have a duty to report on the health of the players that I cover. I don't really enjoy that duty all the time, but I take it seriously. I'm not just going to like go off on speculation or here's what it looks like this on the video, or I might say like that didn't look good, or he looks like he's in pain. I might try to characterize what's happening, but this needs to stop. It's absurd. Who gains from it? Like how, did we feel better about like Kenny Pickett being so bad for 18 hours because people were speculating that it might have been a concussion? I get text messages from people asking me like, did you hear about Kenny's concussion? I'm like, no, because he didn't have one. It just drives me up a wall.
What I took from it is that new helmet did its job. I mean, that's what we talked about, was the extra padding on the back of the helmet, that if those hits were to happen, there's more there to protect from it.
Maybe. I mean, but Kenny's taken a lot of hits like that in his life too, and they didn't all result in concussions. Like,
sure, yeah.
I mean, I think that's like this is a dangerous sport, but it's not also that dangerous.
To your point, not about Kenny, but about the Aaron Rodgers thing. Ryan Clark was there covering the game, and he like tweeted shortly after that he just watched Aaron Rodgers break his ankle, and I was like, break his ankle? Where like I was like, is that already confirmed? Like, so that's kind of, I was just adding that because of you saying that people in the media throwing things out there before
it's irresponsible. I can't believe that we're doing this. Like, I would never. And look, sometimes you get information that's wrong, right? But I'm never going to present anything about a player with an injury or an illness or any kind of medical situation that I don't feel very good, that is confirmed by someone in a position with the ability to do that. Like, why would anyone do that? It's so ridiculous. It needs to be called out everywhere it is, because it's become so pervasive that like. And you know what? I think there's a value in people that are medical professionals or were medical professionals or were team doctors or whatever to say, oh, they're looking at this. These are the options of what it might be. These are how this mechanism of injury generally plays out, right? Like that's good, informed conversation. But we can't just go diagnosing people with stuff that the professionals on site have not. Like it's absurd.
Yep. Speaking of absurd, Alan, should we reveal the granddaddy of them all, the black and gold standard of Steelers
I don't know
afternoon drives?
This is absurd. Absurd has a negative connotation. This is the best thing I've ever seen.
Does absurd have a negative? Okay. All right. Well, maybe me and my friends use the word absurd too loosely then, because we also use absurd in a positive manner if it's just like very.
This is like absurdly good. This is absurdly good. So before the game on Sunday, I parked where I was parked in the media parking lot. There were a lot of 49ers fans around. I was just wondering, did we talk about that either? The number of 49ers fans at that game?
Well, I don't think we did, but they got a Let's Go Niners chant going in that fourth quarter. Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that at a Steelers game. There have been
closest Steelers was like there was a lot at the Raiders home when the home opener.
I remember that game. But there was a lot of Cowboys fans, right? The Cowboys hadn't come in like 8 years or something like that. And there was a lot of Cowboys fans. I remember that.
So like 2016?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But that is I've never seen anything like it. And for the home opener, like it would be one thing if it was December and the Steelers were 8-8, okay, whatever. But man, that was impressive. And sad, I think, to me, from a Steelers standpoint, like what's going on here? Man, how do you have that many of your fans, your season ticket holders on a 30-year wait list that don't want to go to this game? That's a tough one to wrap my head around. How are you not excited about this team coming into this? That's why this loss is so mystifying and so hard to get our heads around. It's because everyone was so excited about this team this year. How are you not going to that game? I don't get it.
I don't know, Alan. I was one of the ones that was there.
You were there.
So
you were there.
Yeah.
You don't get it. You can't answer my question. All right, but who else was there was the lovely Patty Hyatt, formerly of Lawrenceville, currently of Fredericksburg, Virginia, and her 2006 Hummer. Show the people this beauty.
All right, we're gonna go through some slides here. So
start with a. No, we're not going through slides. We're just looking at Franco's.
Well, yeah. Is that I was trying? That's what. Okay, I was trying to figure out. All right.
Okay, so it's a black Hummer. She had it when she bought it. She had it custom painted with gold stripes down the side with the little Northwestern pinstripe. It has Steelers stuff everywhere. Okay, there's a Terrible Towel sticker on the hood. There's a Kenny Pickett sticker on the hood. There's Steelers logos on the mirrors. There's a Steelers logo in the hitch cover. There's a Steelers logo there's a Steelers 6 Super Bowls logo on the spare tire cover. It's just full of Steelers stuff. There's a whole mural on the.
I want to say before I go to the next slide too, she's all in on Kenny Pickett getting his football justice because he's front and center. It needs to happen. Yeah.
There's a whole mural on the roof that has Ryan Shazier and a bunch of other players from like that's 16 to 18 defense. There's all the Lombardi trophies are in one window. There.
So these are legit signatures from these players.
So after she started this, bought the black and yellow Hummer and started kind of decking it out, she started to get Steelers players to sign the car. And now she covers them with this like clear 3M kind of sticker thing so that they stay. Mm-hmm. So Andy Russell, Franco Harris, LC Green. There's two. Hines Ward was there, I think.
And it says he has Super Bowl MVP right above his.
Jerome Bettis, Andy Russell, all of these Steelers greats actually autographed the car. And then she covers them up so that they'll stay there forever. The coolest thing I've ever seen. And she's great. She's like a classic, like she is somebody's mom. Like just like drives around. This is her car. She said it has 100,000 miles on it. It's 2006. And she said she drives it around Fredericksburg, Virginia, and gets people that stop her all day long and say like, "Oh my God, I love your car. Or, I'm such a huge Steelers fan." Or this is the standard. This is the standard that Mike Tomlin was referring to.
Yep. The team was not up to the standard, but this vehicle was on
Absolutely.
Sunday.
I don't even know that it needs said. Standard. I don't even know that it needs said, but this is 6 Lombardi trophies right here.
Yeah,
Patty Hyatt of Fredericksburg, Virginia. Oh, they're on the vehicle. How can we not give it all 6 Lombardi trophies?
I know. They got to figure things out in Pittsburgh because this deserves 7. I want to go to 7 Lombardi.
She said so. On the tailgate kind of swings open, and across the top of the tailgate, she has the Super Bowl logos. She said, "I had to leave room for the 7th one." Oh, you can see it. So she has the Steelers logo there on the end right now. But she said she's got that spot saved for number 7. When they get 7, Patty, we're going to come back and upgrade this to 7 Lombardi trophies.
Did she say, is she typically at games? Is she a season ticket holder or like, is this just
I didn't ask her that. But it seemed like they had a pretty big tailgate gang there. So this is a pretty regular occurrence, I would say. And just awesome that
Where was this at? Where's this at? Like where's
I park kind of on like the north side up behind kind of across the street from Wendy's, I guess, if you know where that is.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, this front is pretty sick too. Yeah. I mean, this is everything that we've wanted right here. So
this is everything is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is for people that have been wondering, these guys keep talking about sending us vehicles. What are they talking about? That's it. That's what we want right there.
We need more of those.
That is going to be hard to live up to.
We will rate them. Send them in.
That'll be hard to live up to, but see where you stack up. See if you can get close to those 6 Lombardis that we just gave Patty. Good stuff. Alan, tell the people where they can find you.
At @Saunders_PGH on X. At PGH Steelers Now is the site's account on that website. At PGH Steelers Now on YouTube. Like and subscribe this channel. All kinds of stuff going on there. I got a Broderick Jones interview coming up later today. He played 4 snaps, so we talked to him.
It potentially could be more on Monday night. We'll wait and see on that.
Prediction: Chooks is going to play, and everybody not named Diontae Johnson and Cam Heyward on that, I think, are going to play, unless there's a setback.
Yeah, which we will be able to monitor throughout the week. So we will see how that goes. Obviously, hoping for the best. I am Zachary Smith, PGH, on everything. Like Alan said, subscribe here, like here, hit that notification bell. Comment down below about anything that we talked about in this show, past shows, what you want to see us talk about in future shows, all that stuff. If you're listening somewhere else, leave us a 5-star review. Until tomorrow, we'll talk to you then. Thanks for taking another ride on Steelers Afternoon Drive with us. Bye-bye.